Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to my studio, my place of work and happiness. This is my place of happiness. I love being here, actually. Anyway, today we're talking about Lightroom and how you can create some amazing presets to really up your game on Instagram. All right, let's get started. All right, guys, just so you know, I'm editing in Adobe Lightroom CC on the MacBook Pro 2016. And right now I've got up one of the photos. Actually, it's my latest post on Instagram. And before, if you can remember, it had the teal and orange preset that I created on it. And right now we're just working with it from scratch. So we're gonna go ahead and recreate that look, and hopefully we can save off that preset, use it on other photos later on. The first thing I'm gonna do is go to my right-hand side and just scroll all the way down to the bottom until we get to the camera calibration settings. And these are really the settings that sort of set the tone to give your photo that teal and orange, or pretty much any other look that you're trying to give your photo. So to get things started, I'm just gonna go ahead down to the blue primary, and I'm just gonna move that all the way to the bottom, both the saturation and the hue. And as you can see, things got little pinkish oranges right off the back. So then we're gonna go up to our red primary, we're gonna go to the hue, and we're just gonna bring it all the way to the right. So as you can see, our orange is already starting to pop out a little bit. So I'm actually gonna go ahead down to the saturation and just bring that up a little bit more just to make it a little stronger. I'm thinking 14 looks fine. So, all right, so next we're gonna scroll up to the white balance feature, and there's a couple of different ways you can establish white balance. You can either use this eyedropper tool to select a neutral spot on the picture, try and white balance it that way, but I don't usually have the best luck with that thing. So I'm actually gonna go over and hit this drop down and just go to auto. And Adobe Lightroom usually does a good job white balancing the photo. If it doesn't, I'll just grab the slider myself and look for a happy medium. So that looks really good. We're just gonna go ahead and use what Adobe Lightroom has given us. So next we're gonna go down to exposure, and we're going to lift that up just a little bit. I think I'm gonna add 1 to exposure, and then bring my highlights all the way down. It's my go-to, lift the exposure, bring down the highlights. Next, I'm gonna go up to the contrast, and I'm just gonna lift that slightly, not too much, because I really like to use the tone curves to do most of my contrasting, but I think we can add a little bit, so I think 9 works out. Next, I'm gonna drop my shadows a bit, raise my whites, and then drop the blacks. All right, so right now we've got a pretty contrasty photo. So we're gonna go ahead and move further down. And for right now, I'm just gonna skip clarity, vibrance, and saturation. And I'm just gonna go straight to the tone curve. All right, so notice I've already dropped 3 points onto the tone curve. That's because right now I'm just gonna create a simple S curve. So I'm just gonna take my shadows here and I'm gonna drag them down. Then I'm gonna go up to my highlights and I'm just gonna raise those up a bit. So if you can see it, it looks like an S, so it's a simple S curve. But one thing I also like to do is head all the way down to the bottom here, and these are like your deepest, darkest shadows, your deep blacks on the picture, and I'm just gonna raise those slightly. All right, so now we've added some pretty good contrast to the image, and we've actually lifted our blacks a bit so we can get more detail out of our jeans, well, out of my jeans, it is a picture of me, and my t-shirt. All right, so next I'm gonna drop down to my HSL sliders, hue, saturation, and luminance, and I've got it set to all here, but if you want to just deal with them individually, you can just click on them individually. Hue, saturation, luminance. I just like to have them all displayed. It's nice and convenient. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and add some more saturation to my blues. So I'm gonna find saturation, I'm gonna go down to the blue slider, and I'm just gonna raise those up a bit. Not too much right now. Let's just go ahead and do 22. So then next I'm gonna go up to my orange. I'm gonna raise that one up a bit. Yep, so right now you can see that it's pretty blue and it's pretty orange. It's kind of intense right now, and you know, we don't really want to leave it like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down to luminance and add some brightness into that specific color. So we're gonna start with orange. I think you'll like it right there. And next I'm going to do the same thing with my blues. If you raise it up too much, it'll just go white, but I think somewhere in the area of 35 looks, 33, 35, 33 looks good. So now I'm gonna go all the way back up to the top and just add a little bit of vibrance and maybe just a tad bit of saturation. It looks like we're almost there. However, we've got a little bit more editing to do. So let's drop back down to the bottom here, and we're going to look at lens corrections. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on enable profile correction. And what this does is it detects the make of the camera as well as the lens that I was using by simply reading the metadata that was embedded in the photo at the time the picture was taken. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure everything looks right. Yep, I took it with the 17-40 f4. So if you want to see the difference, just uncheck and check the box. As you can see, there's a lot of vignetting that gets removed, and the picture is also transformed a bit. All right, so it looks good. We'll just work with that. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is sharpen this picture up a bit. So I'm gonna go up to the sharpening settings, and I'm gonna start with the amount. So quick tip, if you actually hold Option and then click the slider, it'll transform the picture to a black and white version, so you can actually kind of see the sharpness within certain parts of the image. It doesn't really help me out too much, but just a quick tip to show you guys. So I'm actually gonna leave it at 25, okay, that looks okay to me. Then I'm gonna go down to radius. Radius is a little cooler, so you can actually see different parts of the picture come into focus as you move the radius slider. So right now it's affecting the entire photo. You can see the leaves, you can see the outline of myself. So I'm gonna just go ahead and bring it down to around 1.7, that looks good. All right, so next I'm going to adjust the detail portion. And really this is a lot of trial and error. You kind of just move the slider around to see what looks good. I'll just drop it to around 56. And then masking actually helps you mask out the sharpening in the image where it's not needed. And for this, I would say that it's not needed in the sky really. I'll just mask it out to the point where the sky looks pretty clear, as well as some of my clothes. I don't really want too much sharpening in my shirt and jeans. So I'll leave it right about there. All right, so I think the image is looking pretty good right now. However, I think that the subject in the photo, which is myself, could be a little sharper. And I also think that we could add a bit of saturation to the leaves around me. I think that would really help contrast the photo even more. And then, you know what, let's just try it. All right, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do now is go up to the paintbrush. And I'm just gonna try and select the subject in the photo so that we can single it out and try and make it a little bit sharper and maybe even slightly more saturated. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna start by painting myself. You notice that I have the exposure turned all the way up. That's just to help me identify what I'm painting. All right, cool, looks pretty good to me. So next I'm gonna go ahead and bring my exposure down to 0. That'll bring everything back to normal. Notice my sharpness is already up a little high. I'm gonna bring that down to, say, 33. Then I'm gonna bring my saturation up a little bit. I think 17 looks good. All right, so let's go up and select a new paintbrush now. And this time we're just gonna select all the foliage around me that's really just hiding out in the shadows. I'm gonna leave a lot of these highlights alone, so. All right, that looks pretty good. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and bring my exposure back down to 0. And I'm gonna bring my sharpness down to 0 as well. I'm really just gonna play with the saturation here. And I think I'm just gonna bring that up to around, I think 40 looks pretty good. And all right, I think we're pretty much done here. I mean, we've got our highlights back. The oranges are looking pretty good. We've got our blues back in the photo. They're looking pretty good. Everything looks pretty saturated. So I'd say that we were done here. If you actually just hit Y, you can see a side-by-side comparison from our original to what we have now. And yeah, I think it's a pretty big difference. If you actually just hit Shift Y, you can see a split before and after. So this gives you a little bit more detail. And I think we have done a great job editing this photo. All right guys, so last but not least, let's go ahead and turn this into a preset. So we can do that by just going up to Develop, New Preset. And as you can see, you can actually select which options you would like to incorporate. Basic tone, white balance. Oh yeah, I didn't talk about split toning. Let's go back and talk about that real quick. So if you go up to split toning here, you can actually add in a little bit of saturation, and then you can actually affect the colors of just the shadows and the highlights. So down here in the shadows, as you can see, I can change kind of like the feel of the picture by just adjusting the shadows itself. So if I want to make it a little cooler, I can bring it to the blue, and just to show you a little bit more in detail, I'll just bring up the highlights a little more so you can see that you really are changing the color in the photo. You know what, I'm actually going to add a little bit of blue to the shadows. All right, so now back to develop. Let's add this preset, new preset. So now let's make up a name. I'm going to call it, all right, so I think this is pretty good. Let's go ahead and create it. And as you can see on the left-hand side here, we've got our preset, Orange Until Luminance 3.0, which means that now we can, let's go ahead and just reset this entire image. We're going to add this Orange Until Luminance 3.0 to it, and bam, right where we left off. So it's also important to note that the preset did not save off anything we did with the paintbrush, so you would have to go back and do that. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I mean, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's been a while since my last video, but now I'm back with new videos every week. So go ahead and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one.
When I woke up this morning and the haters were all for me.